Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Okay. Ooh, I've got something in my eye. Ooh. Hi. Okay, so carrying on from yesterday. Ooh, looks like Robin is here. Stitch is gonna stitch, and Meg, Annie. What fun. So yesterday I chose the two colors. I chose this like little light pink, and then I chose this 68 kind of bright pink, similar to the paid pattern one, but not the same. So I chose like a more orange for the middle of this one. And this one's more of like a bright pink instead of a purpley pink. They are different, okay? They are different. It's a bit gloomy here today. Okay, so we're gonna finish these little petals. I've got 6 petals. Some of you have 5, some of you have 7. That's fine. We're gonna use all 6 strands, so you don't need to split them. Let's thread the needle and get going. So yesterday we did straight stitch, which is literally just some straight stitches all around in a circle. And today we're gonna do a satin stitch. Now the satin stitch, very similar, except we're going to make them all smooth and all parallel together. So sometimes with satin stitch, I like to add these lines that show where my thread should be going. And it's really helpful, especially if you have an awkward shape. So if you've got a flower that's like a bit odd and you want to satin stitch it, the direction of the stitch can be quite important. So obviously you don't have to do this for each one. I'm just showing that they should all be parallel, which means that they should never touch. And this is where some of you made the petals, a little bit more like a teardrop instead of straight up on the sides. That's fine too, but if you wanted to change the shape of them before you started stitching so that you didn't have such a small point here, then you could do that as well. Or you can just continue with the shape that you did. And that's fine. We're gonna go straight over this line here. So I made mine a little bit overlapping, and we're just gonna stitch right over it. So let's get started. Ha! Stitch is gonna stitch. Said I've changed my flower so many times. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Most of it will be covered up anyways, and we'll be adding things kind of next to it and, you know, over here as well. Around the whole girl will be filled. So at the very end, if you still think, ugh, I've got like a part here that I don't really like, or maybe used a pencil so you can't blow dry your lines off. I almost said your stitches off. Idiot. You can't blow dry the extra lines off if you used a pencil, and sometimes it's a bit smudgy. You can always add another piece of it, like a little stem or a little leaf or some French knots or something around it to make it look a bit more, like to hide it, but then make it look a bit more full. Right, I'm gonna get started because I tend to just talk and talk and talk. So you're gonna come up from the top, yeah? And you're gonna go down into these here. Let me just zoom in a little bit more for the first one so you can really see. Okay. So you're gonna go down into these here. What is going on today? Oh, killing me. Okay, so you're gonna go down into these right here. You don't wanna go so far because you want to still have that pink showing. So if you use just a small amount of your middle color, whatever color that is, and you think, oh, I don't wanna go in there because then it's gonna take away some of that pink, you can go just right up to the edge and barely go through like that, yeah? And with the satin stitch, we're gonna make some a little bit longer and some a little bit shorter so that we still have that jagged edge. We don't really want it to be straight. So let's go. Like that, straight back up to the top, and down again. Yeah? And then we just keep going. With the satin stitch, I like to start in the middle and then do one side then the other. So in each petal, you'll see me do the middle first. I find that it really helps, especially because here you have like a bit of a sloping shoulder, if you will, on the edge of each of the leaves. And sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to figure out where the first stitch will go. Like, will it go here or maybe over a little bit more? So if you do the middle, you can kind of go until it looks good for you, if that makes sense. And like I said, like numerous times before, there's no right or wrong way really for this. So when I think mine might look right, you might think, oh, I would have put an extra stitch there, or I would have done it a little bit differently. And that's okay. The other thing that I've noticed is that some people are pulling their stitches really, really tight, which means that the fabric will start to pucker up. So if I pull this really, really tight, do you see how it starts to do that here? You don't want it to be so tight. You want them to just kind of lay nicely on top of the fabric. And then finally, make sure your hoop is tight all the time. So before I start, I like to kind of, because obviously I'm doing the paid stitch along and the free one. So I take the hoops out of the hoop stand, every day. So before I put it back on, I just give it a little tug around, just making sure that everything's nice and tight. You do not want to have any kind of saggy fabric or loose material. It really, 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 really does not help you. And it makes it really, really difficult to do your stitches. And I've even had some at some points where I've had to hold the fabric tight like this as I was stitching, and it's not a fun time. So do those two kind of checks. Make sure that your hoop is nice and tight, and then as you're doing your satin stitch, you don't want to pull, that one wasn't parallel. You don't want to pull too tight. You just want it to kind of lay on there. And then I'll go back and do the other side. Yeah? Do you have any questions about the satin stitch? Or comments or problems or anything? Hi, Meg. I'm going to do just one more a little bit down farther. Ooh. So there's one petal done. And like I said, I'm going to go straight in here to do the middle first. Good morning. And then finish each one. Now, if you have a smaller hoop, then 6 strands would definitely work. It's not, too big or anything. But if you wanted to have a smaller flower Or if you wanted to add smaller details in there, you could definitely use less strands. So just keep that in mind as you're going along. Mike says, I haven't started stitching my hoops yet. I'll have a whole lot to catch up on this weekend. Well, the only good thing is that with the free stitch along, it's really, really, really step by step. And for the first couple days, like 3 days, I think, they're pretty much the same. So it's literally just back stitch here, straight stitch, then satin stitch, and it's the same on both hoops. So it's not too bad. Today, for the paid stitch along, if you're doing that one, we're not going to do the same as this one. So like tomorrow we're doing something different than we're doing on that one, if that makes sense. Meg says, are you still uploading the videos to YouTube after? Yep. They're all on there so far, except today's, I think. Hi, George. Good morning. Missed you at the Super Bowl party. I will say that over the weekend I tried to upload like all of them at once, and it's not fun. Because so when I upload to YouTube, I don't know if I've told you before, but like my screen has to be on the whole time, so I have to change my like, I'm not complaining, it's just this is just like a fact. I have to change my display to like never turn off. And then I also can't be on my phone like to check anything. So like I can't reply to a comment, or I can't like use my phone, period. So I thought, well, I'll just do all 5 at the same time, like over the weekend, and then they'll be done. And after like 4 hours of like my phone being on the entire time, none of the videos were up yet, and I was like, okay, this is not a good idea. So I had to delete all of those uploads and then redo it, but like one at a time. And they normally take like 30 to 40 minutes, I think. So like not too bad. But over the weekend, it was like the day of the Super Bowl on Sunday, or maybe it was Saturday. But one of those days, I was trying so hard, and I was like, they need to get up on YouTube. Okay, halfway done. A little over halfway done. Okay. 2.5 petals left. All right, let's finish this. Oh, I made this thread really long. Oh my God. Goodness gracious, Tori. That one is also not parallel, but we're gonna leave it. Hi, Elena. So obviously the less strands, the more smoother look that you'll get. You can tell these are not like super smooth here, but they are all parallel and it is still a satin stitch. I'm just adding another one on each side because I think it looks a little too boxy there. I'm just adding one more. Sometimes when you see it stitched, you think, actually, it just needs one more stitch there. Like the petals are too straight on each side. That's all right. Isn't that annoying? Do you know why? Because my thread is too long. Riveting content right here, guys. Me unpicking a knot. Normally, if my thread's really long, I just make my tail longer. Sometimes that helps it, sometimes not. Sometimes you just need to cut it shorter. So we'll see. If I get more knots, then that's annoying. And I'll end up cutting it. Some people say to make it like the length of your forearm, so like from obviously your wrist to the crook of your elbow. But I think that's too short for me. I think especially if you're going to do things like the woven wheel rows, the woven rows, where you have to always, like, you have to go round and round and round and round and round. So it's like, ugh, if you have to stop in the middle of that and like get more thread, it can be a bit, ugh. Elena says, I hate when that happens. Girl, me too. Okay, one petal left. Now this is one where this side goes in a little bit like that, and I'm gonna go make it straight like the other ones because I really don't want one odd man out there. Looks a bit suspect. So we just change it. Also notice that I tend to like to go to put my needle in here. So I always want to try to get my needle at the very tip of my petal and then going down into the middle of it, into those threads. I think sometimes it like pierces them nicely and it makes it give this nice jagged look. Whereas coming up here sometimes doesn't give that nice of an effect. It kind of like splits them around instead of going straight down in. Here we go, we're almost done. That was Jessie behind me. She's obviously not keen on me speaking. She's like, shut up. I'm trying to take a nap. Okay, and then at the very end, I like to go around and just see if there's any petals that might need another one on each side. Like this one is pretty like straight up and down instead of like rounded. So I'm just gonna go back and add another one here. Oh, did I pull it out? No. Good. But if you're happy with it, then that's the end. Make a knot and you're done. There you go. So I'm just gonna flip her over. Shut up. God. Snipper, and then we're done. So there we go. Tomorrow, let me just check. Tomorrow, we're going to be drawing again. Eee! How exciting. So tomorrow we'll draw again, and then it's stitch tomorrow, and then stitch Thursday, and then Friday we'll draw again. So you kind of have like a bit of a break in between drawing and stitching, you know? As always, like and comment on each other's. Tag me so I can take a screenshot and enter you for the giveaway. What else? I think that's it. If you've got any questions, as always, DM me. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely Tuesday. Talk with you tomorrow. Bye.